mean to the
Hey guys, it's me, Michael Gibbons. So, I'm here to do another reaction. So, I came across this other video while scrolling down through animal sections, anything animal related, and I came across this title called "Dogs Are Not Humans." So that's a pretty interesting title in itself. So let's just get started to it.
this can of worms again, but I also can't resist. So a few days ago, I said on Twitter, half joking, that dogs are the most overrated things in the universe. Second, perhaps only to the original Star Wars trilogy. And now I do think that dogs in Star Wars are overrated, but obviously I'm engaging in a bit of joking hyperbole at the same time. But from there, as you might expect, the dog people started coming and they claiming that dogs are wonderful, they're the most loving creatures in the world, and so much more loving than people, and so on. And I simply and calmly explained that dogs are fine, but actually dogs aren't really capable of love in the human sense, because they don't have that same awareness of themselves. They don't have the same ability to choose. They're largely instinctive animals.
Okay, so all right, so let's get started. First off, to start off with that, in terms of dogs, are not able to love. So of course that's not true. Dogs don't rely entirely on instinct, of course. But that also depends on how you define love. Is it attachment? Is it joy? There's been research done with dogs where unless you pet a dog, give it, or it's in a comfortable situation, and you stop petting it, and if the dog wants that same attention and comfort back, then you have a too loving relationship right there. But in terms of where he said that they don't have emotion, well, human emotions is probably where he's getting at, where they are self-aware. That's an interesting thing, though, because when people tend to test animals on self-awareness, they usually do this thing called the mirror test, where they'll put a dot on an animal's face or body part and put them up against a mirror, and if the animal touches that place where the dot was, then it shows that the animal has an understanding of itself. But dogs don't pass this test. Now, people tend to think this is because they're not self-aware, but the thing is, with this test, the faulty thing about it is it relies more or less on vision than on self-awareness. This is the problem when people tend to test animals in terms of at least an intelligence, things that, well, more or less when you're testing intelligence in animals, what we're really trying to figure out is how much are they like us? And you're already starting off bad like that, because now everything is sort of biased, where like everything is seen through a human lens, everything is seen through a human viewpoint, and that's not the only viewpoint there is. Animals have other ways of experiencing the world, and one of the ways is through scent, which dogs can. And when they tested dogs using not just mirror, but with identifying their own piss, I believe, the dogs passed just as much as people did. So that's a faulty thing when we have to test animals, we have to test them on their own measures rather than our own, because animals have cognitive faculties that are superior to humans in many ways, and same can be said vice versa. In terms of choosing, there's a wide range of things I could go into with that. Animals have the ability to choose many things. With dogs, it can be kind of limited, because more or less dogs don't really have much control over the household, because people don't give the dog a lot of, mostly because house dogs are really dependent on you. Which is really why they're so in need for your affection. Not totally because of that, but mostly because they're dependent on you. Like your children. Your young children.
and love requires an awareness of the self. It also requires an ability to choose, so animals just don't have that. And their love for you is based mostly on the fact that you feed them. If they were starving and you were incapacitated or dead, they would just eat you. So, and that's fine, right?
Well, that's an interesting thing, though. Because there have been reports of dogs actually eating their owners, actually, yes. But then this is another problem with people. A major problem with humans is that we tend to generalize animals as a whole group instead of individuals. People tend to think of dogs as more loving than people. That's partly true. Some dogs can be more loving than humans, and some humans can be more loving than dogs. Now, when he said that if a dog was starving and it would most likely eat a human, well, then that would depend on the dog's relationship with that person. Because for most dogs, now it doesn't matter on the breed, because it's have been shown that golden retrievers, Pomeranians, Chihuahuas, Labs have been known to mostly eat the faces of their humans. Now, how this starts is psychologically, when a dog sees his unconscious owner on the floor, the first response is to lick the owner. Now, if the owner doesn't get up, right, if there's no response, the dog starts to panic, and then it starts to result in biting. And then when blood comes out, once they get a taste of the blood, then it results into eating. So it's not necessarily that they're doing it because they need to eat or they want to eat. It more says it's a bad habit that they just can't stop. And the more submissive and more, nervous a dog was throughout their life with their said human, the more likely that those stages are going to happen. But some dogs, depending on the relationship that you have with the dog, they will mourn for a couple weeks. And then after a couple weeks, they'll probably only, think of the possibility to eat you. But again, most likely, if they're really, really starving, they'll most likely eat you. But then, here's the thing. The same can be said with a person. If a person, and maybe it could be a friend or someone you don't know, was stranded on an island and you had nothing to eat, you'd be surprised what hunger can do to you. You'd be surprised the sides to the human that you wouldn't expect to see. But that's what happens, we're not all civilized, I mean, we can be civilized if we have a nice life, if we're in a nice environment, if we have plenty of resources and stuff to go around. But when those resources start to dwindle, that's when you start to get a lot of violence. And then, where's the love there? It's more or less survival. It's not that people tend to think that humans can't be victims of, that kind of survival mentality.
They're dogs. It's okay. Dogs are dogs. No big deal. But if you really think that dogs are more capable of love than humans, I think that says a lot more about you than it does about dogs or other people. It just means that you're a bit of a sociopath. If you actually have people in your life who you really love, like children, a spouse, you would never equate a dog's affection for its caretakers to human love.
Okay. And now this is a problem with him. Now, in his general view, he doesn't view the relationship between a dog and a human and a dog and a child. But the problem with that is a dog has many roles in the human viewpoint, in the human's eyes. A dog can be seen as a pet, or someone's child. I'm sure a lot of these dog lovers treat their dogs as their children. Or it could be a service animal or a therapy animal, or it could be in the line of duty in the military and stuff like that. There's a lot of things. Or food source. So we don't really know how else to treat them. But with your child, it's just your child. No matter what he or she does, he's still your child, because it's obvious, because you're biologically, he's your infant. But then say if you had an adopted child. Now, there have been some parents might say, well, not all, but there are a few that might say, he's not really my child. But then people will say, it doesn't matter. You love him the same way you love any of your other children. Well, why should that be any different for a dog? More or less than people will say, he's a dog. Or they'll equate the things that he just mentioned earlier, that they don't feel love or stuff like that, which isn't true. But once you can get past that, all you're left with is that the fact that it's a different animal. And the problem with him is that he views animals so low that even equating them to humans would be an insult to humanity. So most people tend to think of, because this is a thing, because if you're a human, of course you're going to value your own species over species of animals. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to value others of your own kind more or less than others of other species. Which is totally natural, that's just how evolution works, But if you were to go up to anyone, ask them, who's more important, a dog or a human? You're already starting off bad, because more than likely, every one of those people that you're asking is more than likely a human. And most will probably tell you, human. Because of course, you're a human. Of course, it's just natural. Some may probably look beyond their through the human view, and they'll see that other animals like orcas, elephants, and apes, monkeys, animals that we deem as really intelligent, have probably had this thought cross in their mind at some point that, if they had to choose between, it doesn't even need to be a thought, you can just see that they would value their own kind other than a human. But then some individuals within a species may have a different relationship with another species, more or less than the relationship with their own species. So that's probably why they like those animals more or less than their own kind. So it's a lot of individuals, and it really jumbles up your data, it infuriates me when I hear people generalizing animals, including humans, because humans are animals, as a whole. It's just really, it doesn't do any help. It doesn't get you anywhere.
That's all I said, right? A basic point, an obvious point, no big deal. Well, as expected, since then I've gotten some very angry messages from dog lovers, including this one, which I have to read because it's so over the top. I have to. Now, remember, again, keep in mind why this message was sent, because I just said that about dogs. Dogs are fine, but they're not people. That was basically my point. Okay.
No, they're not people, but they don't need to be people. Now that's the thing. You see, that's where I'm getting at. The only way they would value a dog was if the dog was a human, which is not really practical, because whether you like it, the dog shares the same qualities that you do, unless that, in the general sense that they want to feel, they want to be loved. They have feelings, and they have a lot of emotions that humans do, and they have their own kind of intelligence. There's no point in comparing intelligence, bringing intelligence into this, because intelligence can be really objective. How do you define intelligence? We may be better at math than they are, but to us, dogs are olfactory. And God, jeez, I'm trying to get a burp out, but it's not coming out, man. There we go. It's a little one, but it came out. To dogs, we're like olfactory idiots, So that's problematic in itself as well. They don't need to be people, That's that brings it. You see, there's the problem that springs out. It's coming out full front. That in order for us to treat them like us, they have to be not like us. They have to be us. Because it seems like that's not enough. People see animals like us, but it's still not the same, because we have this view of animals that they're lower than us, and that needs to change.
I never advocated that we go and kill all the dogs in the world or whatever. I never said that.
Good.
But here's a message from someone. It says, you hating dogs so much makes you a worthless, quote unquote, human being. Go F yourself. Because God knows that's the only way you get any, unless you get your poor wife drunk. I feel especially sorry for your kids who have a POS like you as a father. The fact that you reproduced and the fact that you exist is sickening. Now, again, that was because I said that dogs are overrated. The person who sent that message, by the way, is a middle-aged woman. Looks to be just kind of like a normal soccer mom based on her picture. And I'm sure that if you bumped into this person on the street, you'd think that this was just a normal person, right? But behind the scenes, she's sending delusional, sexually charged screeds to people on Twitter who don't like dogs enough. And that's one thing I find interesting about what I do for a living, because I get a lot of emails and messages every single day, and I think that they really, they really give you an insight into what people are really like, more so than interacting with people in the real world, bumping into a stranger and exchanging pleasantries with them. Doesn't really give you any sense of what a person's actually like, because even a serial killer could, is capable of making small talk on an elevator if he doesn't decide to kill you instead. But it's on the internet that people feel free to be themselves, which is why I don't like this delineation sometimes between, that's just how people are on the internet. That's not how they are in real life. Well, no, but those are real people on the internet, right? These are actual human beings who are expressing their points of view on the internet. The internet is just a mode of communication, that's all. So, no, I mean, if you discover that a sizable portion of the people you encounter online are just absolute maniacs and scumbags, unfortunately, that means that there just are a lot of maniacs and scumbags.
Well, I wouldn't equate to them being maniacs more or less than just being really passionate in what they believe. It's kind of like with vegans, some will take it to the extreme, but others are just like, it's more or less they're just really mad that you don't see what they see, They wish that you could understand that dogs are really incredible animals, which they can be. Just like as all people can be great people. But then, people make mistakes, and the terms of human society really messes us up. And that's one thing with dogs, is that dogs, for the most part, aren't corrupted by elements of human society. So they won't cheat. Well, actually, I can't say that. Some dogs will cheat you, mostly strays. But it's more or less people who just have a better relationship with their dogs than they do with people. Some of these people have probably been cheated, lied to, and deceived so many times throughout their lives that animals were the only sense of, affection that they got throughout their whole lives. And then it makes sense why they would deem that better than the other one.
In the world, because almost everybody is online. And this is where people let their true colors shine, because they feel like they have the ability to do that without shame or without fear of reprisal or whatever. So that's the first thing. The other point is that while this woman is obviously over the top, she is representative of a group, and not a very small group either, who are just, I don't know what else you could call them besides dog worshippers. I mean, it seems like there are a lot of people in this country who really do worship dogs. They actually think that dogs are like gods, basically.
Well, no, they just love really dogs. But the problem is, he doesn't love, to begin with, he just thinks dogs are fine. The average person probably loves their dog. So anyone who doesn't even love dogs would seem like they don't like dogs, because it's so common for people to say they love dogs, but if someone says dogs are fine, but dogs are overrated, people would immediately say oh, you don't like dogs, you're a terrible person, man, how could you not like dogs, man? What? No. So it's just that he's low on the platform and they're up here. So him being low there when everyone else is up here is kind of like there's something wrong with him. Like that.
And I don't even think that that's hyperbole. I think that that's really the case. Now, I have no problem with people who love pets and love animals in general. I think that's great. I have a dog myself. I like my dog, but he's just a dog. As I said, my feelings towards him do not even get close to the ballpark of my feelings for my kids. Like, they're not even in the ballpark next door. They're like on a ballpark on another planet somewhere.
Okay, so that's an interesting thing now. Like these people were saying about how he didn't like dogs. I mean how he didn't like dogs. He hated dogs. But turns out that he does have a dog. But I don't think it's necessarily, maybe he's the family dog, you know. I don't think he's the one that necessarily wanted to get a dog. Maybe he did. I don't know. I don't know his relationship with the dog off screen. But the fact that he said he just, like, he said it like this, right? He said, I have a dog. I like my dog. I don't understand. I don't know any person that would buy a dog because they wanted a dog, right? And someone asks them, "You have a dog?" And they say, "Yeah, I have a dog. What do you think of him?" "I like him. I like my dog." A person would like. I mean, I guess I'm thinking in the mindset of those dog lovers, but like I said earlier, but like, I don't think he necessarily got the dog because he wanted to get the dog. I think he got the dog mostly for his children to like. But he doesn't really give that dog the same affection that he would his kids. Understandably, you know, the kids are his kids, you know. But how he views the animal doesn't mean that is how it's supposed to be. That the dog should not be equated with the children. Who are we to decide that? I mean, you can treat... I mean, there's so many possibilities. I mean, you know, just because you view the dog a certain way doesn't mean every dog is that and should be that. You know, the dog can be seen as your equal. I mean, in many ways it is, in the sense that the dog wants to be loved just as much as your children would, just as much as an adopted child would. But yeah, the fact that I don't think he necessarily loves his dog. Well, I mean, obviously he said dogs are overrated. Any person. Now, while he may have a dog, that doesn't necessarily make you a dog lover. Any more than you having a kid doesn't make you a good parent. You raising a good kid is what makes you a good parent. I feel like. Now, this is just a hypothesis that he bought a dog. Now we don't know how long he's had the dog for, but more than likely he got the dog for his children. Or maybe his wife wanted a dog. Who knows? But one thing is sure, that his connection with the dog is not very close, not very tight, because he sees it. Because he says this, he's a dog. He's just a dog. Now, any person who has a dog, I don't know, maybe they did get a dog at the time, but just like, I don't know, maybe like, it's a really complicated thing, you know, where like you have a dog, but you kind of push him to the side, you know. He's like, I like you, but you're not one of us. For what reason? Because you're not part of my species. You're not one of us. That's not the reason. Even though in his mind he thinks that the dog can't love, you know, he doesn't think that the dog is able to love or has emotion. So that's kind of cut ties with that. You know, if he's unable to know what's there to begin with, you know, that just divides them even more. Only if he truly understands that a dog can love and a dog can be loyal to you. But if you understand their needs, though, then you'll start to see it in a different way. But in the terms of, yeah, him liking his dog more than his children, you know, a dog can be considered your child. I'm sure a lot of these dog lovers treat their dogs as their children as well.
Just not anywhere in the vicinity, right? As in, if we were all starving to death and we had no other food, I would, in a second, kill my dog and feed him to my kids, right? I wouldn't even have to think about it. That's no problem.
Okay, well, that's definitely, okay, that even adds more stuff to it. Okay, well, Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't his idea to get the dog. Maybe it was. Maybe he just like, yeah, like obviously he has a dog, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he likes the dog. You know, there's a lot of people who have dogs that aren't not fit to be good animal caretakers. You know, obviously he sees the dog here and the children here to the point where is it he doesn't see the dog's life has any worth. He just sees it as a dog and that's it. Doesn't know what a dog can be capable of to begin with. If you don't know what's there, you know, you're set up for failure. But this is a complicated thing now. A lot of people will tend to ask, if you're in a desert, stranded, and nothing to eat, I would 100%. Who would you kill? I would 100% kill the dog, you know, because but why? Why though? Why would you kill? I mean, people say, well, you're gonna kill the human, but why would you need to kill the dog? Why not just not kill either of them, huh? Why not just kill either of them? They don't view the dog's life has any worth. But now here's the thing, right? If you had, say, you and a human, someone that you don't know, does it change then? Switch that dog with, like, an adopted human. Or go further than that. Just a person that you've never met. Just change the being in a sense. Change the creature. And what do you got? It starts to get conflicting. It's more or less the fact that one of them is a human and the other one is a non-human. But that may not always be the case, because some people really do think that the dog doesn't have emotions like we do. So that's probably why they'll feel even more willing to kill the dog. But when they know that, it makes it a lot harder. If they know that, it makes it a lot harder.
That's where he ranks in the hierarchy. But it's fine. I like having him around, and he's a dog, and it's fine. But
he likes having him around. His relationship with that dog isn't the typical like a person and their dog, you know, that close bond. You know, it doesn't feel like, I'm not getting that. I'm not getting that from what he's talking about, how he's talking about it. And he mentioned hierarchy. That's another thing. I guess, in your view, your hierarchy is how you make it to be. If you see the dog below you, well then, that's how you're going to treat the dog. If you see the dog equal to you, then that's that. But then you have to think of it from the dog's perspective, you know. Does the dog feel he's lower than you? Does the dog feel he's higher than you? If you see it through other views, you start to see how just our view isn't the right one. But it's the only one we can ask, because we can't talk to animals. We can only talk to humans.
there are people, and this woman is a member of this group, obviously, who really do love animals more than they love people, who love their pets even more than they love their own children. And that's the really...
I'm pretty sure that they don't love their dogs more than their own children. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't gotten the hate comments he has, but... well, battery power's running out. I better make this quick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't like their dogs more than their own children. Maybe he thinks that, or maybe he's actually gotten some comments. But if they do think that, then you're starting to get somewhere off-putting. You know, I don't believe any life is more valuable than another life, because that depends on who's asking the question and whose view it's from.
Disturbing thing. That people, at a minimum, they consider their pets to be on an equal playing field with their human children. And these kinds of people exist. And I believe, based on my observations, that it is a growing group. And it's a problem because it's sort of a sign of a dying civilization when everyone starts to worship animals. Like
It's not a sign of dying civilization. No. It's actually probably a sign of a growing civilization. Now, in the terms of seeing animals as equal to humans, in the sense that they want to live and they want to have the same freedoms to life and liberty and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's their choice. They want to live just like we do. A lot of them have similar emotions to us. Because the thing about it is, how we treat animals is a factoring sign of how we treat other people. If we see other animals that are so different from us, how hard is it going to be for us to be racist or feminist or just have all-out hatred towards other people of different ethnicities and races? It'll be a lot harder. But I think through his viewpoint, because he sees animals so low, equating them to humans is an insult, like I said. And making them equal to us would be the same as us worshiping them. We're not really worshiping them. It's just that we're treating them higher than they've been treated before. And they need to, because they've been treated really low.
We're reverting back to paganism. All I want to say to this group, if you're in this group of people, all I want to say to you is this. And I'm not talking about people who love their pets. That's fine. If you love your pets more than you love people, and even more or equal to how you love your children, so what I would say is, it's not okay to be how you are. It's not okay to like animals more than people. It really isn't. That's actually a very demented and disturbed point of view. And it stems entirely, and this is why it's such a problem, it stems entirely from your selfishness. So the reason you love animals more than people is because your relationship with your dog is all about you, right? And that's what people like about dogs. Your dog is obsessed with you, follows you around, fawns all over you, literally slobbering all over you, thinks of nothing but you. While you're out of the house, he just wants you to come back, and when you're back, he's so excited.
That is an important factor. He's not completely wrong with that. Now, with dogs, they are, like I said, they are entirely dependent on you, because you are their caretaker. You provide for them. You provide everything for them. You take them out for walks. You give them new toys. You give them their food, and you give them their water. They have no control over their environment. So that's why they have to depend on you, which is why their whole life is you. But now, in terms of like wild animals, like say orcas, who have their own lives, right? Orcas can interact with humans and their own kind as well, like in the wild. That would be similar to someone meeting another person for the first time, just because they were interested in you. It's like that. But like he said, it is true that possibly people do tend to get animals mostly because they don't want to put in the effort of like giving attachment back to another person who's giving it to them in a relationship, in terms of humans.
And that's why people like dogs. But human beings aren't like that, right? People aren't going to live every second of every day thinking only of you, pining after you, wanting to be with you. I don't know. I mean, personally, I wouldn't want that kind of attachment from another human being. It's a little too much. Like, I need a little bit of space. But people have their own internal life and their own existence that is not all about you, their own identity. And I think for the people who like dogs more than people, that's why you don't like people as much. Because you've yet to meet a person who will structure their entire existence around you. And you don't like that because you are a complete egomaniac.
Okay, well, we're going to end it off on here because my battery is really low. So, yeah, just on that, I'm sure that's obviously not why everyone does it. But that is an interesting point, One, how do you determine who is more valuable than another, And And who decides that? That's an interesting question that I want to leave off on. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'll probably do another reaction to something else. But until next time, man,